As one of the top zoos in the country, Busch Gardens has a large variety of animals representing over 300 species. Almost 200 of those species are birds, and not surprisingly, their bird breeding program is one of the best in the nation.
Meet Roxy. Roxy is a 13-year-old parrot hatched and raised right here in Busch Gardens. Many people might not realize it, but Busch Gardens has one of the largest and most successful private bird breeding programs in the country. It's especially known for its parrots.
Curator of birds Mike Wells has been working at Busch Gardens for 20 years. There are almost 100 varieties of parrots found in the park, most of which were either hatched here or in other zoos.
In 1960, when we opened up Busch Gardens, we started by bringing in parrots into the country. We bought these parrots from importers in Miami. Birds were not very well known then in American aviculture. Not very many people had pets. Birds were not real popular. It seems as in the last 20 years, this has really dramatically increased, and you see pet parrots everywhere. Because of that demand on birds, there's been a dwindling of the supply of birds in the wild, and many of those birds are trapped by thoughtless trappers who cut down nesting trees that take over 100 years to grow. And those trees are cut down to get the babies out of the nest. And those are the kind of things that we're at Busch Gardens are looking to try to avoid. And by captive propagation and seeing the need for that captive propagation and seeing the decline of the birds in the wild, we felt it was very important to invest resources and time into setting these birds up and trying to get them to breed. Because by breeding them is the only way we're going to have them in the future.
Captive propagation means putting birds together in hopes that they'll mate. However, just knowing the gender of the bird is often difficult, and together with other variables, breeding can be quite a challenge for zookeepers.
One of the obstacles we find are just the facts of nature. Some birds, for some reason, don't get along, and we put them together and maybe years will pass and we have no success. We move them around, we call other zoos, we trade males off or females off, and we try to put together pairs that will work. Sometimes moving a bird to a new location will be very helpful. Sometimes maybe changing the way the sun hits the cage from right to left to north and south or front to back. Sometimes we do some experimentation with diet to make sure that the birds are well fed, and certainly many birds' nesting habits are triggered by the abundance or the lack of food. So all those things, there's a million different variables in this business of bird husbandry, and it can be very tricky, and a lot of it's luck.
Mike often gets phone calls from local residents who see a bird in their backyard and think that it's from Busch Gardens. Although the zoo is also a theme park, educating people on the diversity of nature that's found around them is also stressed throughout the park.
Education is an important part of all of our lives. Education is something that without education, sometimes we can be not as well versed in some of the things regarding endangered species or other factors that contribute to the decline of the quality of life on this planet. And by mixing entertainment with education and showing people animals and entertainment, we can make education fun and interesting, and that's the bottom line. We like to do that with people. We like to have fun here, but at the same time, we like to give them a message that this is one world that we're on, and it's a big blue marble, and it's a wonderful thing.
This park is one of only 4 zoos in the country that can actually boast over 3,300 animals. Conservation and education efforts are continuing as researchers learn more about animals, birds, and reptiles in these naturalistic environments. From Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay, I'm Eileen Smeedy.